The episode begins right as a game finally ends after 3 long years. But for the protagonist, a hardcore gamer from Japan, 3 years is nothing. He's disappointed, calls it trash, and says a real game should take at least 10 years to beat. So he immediately searches for something harsher, a hardcore game with garbage balancing. The moment he types it in, his screen shifts to a mysterious fantasy world. An unknown company offers him an endless game set in a land of swords and magic, and he's instantly hooked. He checks difficulty, easy, normal, and a bizarre option called Hell Mode. The description warns of despair and says leveling takes 100 times the experience. He's unfazed and selects Hell Mode without hesitation. Next is class selection: swordsman, spear user, sword master, hero, demon lord, and more. But summoner catches his eye because it has the highest difficulty rating and is labeled alpha testing. That only makes it more appealing, so he chooses it and hits start, accepting he's basically the game's guinea pig. The instant he confirms, he vanishes, leaving behind an empty room. He feels warm and comfortable at first, then everything tightens and he can barely breathe. A moment later, he's pushed out into a new world, reborn as a newborn baby. His father beams and names him Alan. Alan accepts the name easily, even though he used to be a 35-year-old white-collar worker named Kenichi Yamada, broke and stuck in a dead-end life. Now Alan is 1 year old. He can't talk yet, but he can think clearly and understands everything around him. Japanese seems to be the common language here. He realizes he's been born into a serf family in a frontier settlement that hasn't even been officially named yet. Pioneers pay taxes to a ruling lord to farm and develop the land. His father, Rodan, works himself to the bone. And his mother, Teresia, is gentle and kind. Alan is their only child for now, but he can tell more kids will probably come. One night, Teresia puts him down and leaves to eat with Rodan. Alone, Alan tries to open his stat window, and nothing happens. He keeps trying over and over until he's almost convinced it won't work. Then, on one last attempt, a glowing book appears above him. He screams, his parents rush in, and he quickly dismisses it and pretends to sleep. They assume he was sleep-talking and leave. Once alone again, Alan summons the book back. It's his grimoire showing his stats. Level 1, class, Summoner. He learns Summon and Create gain experience separately and level through use. Right now, he can only make H-rank insects and beasts, the weakest tier. The grimoire flips to a message from Elmia, the god of creation. She apologizes for the delay, explaining that since Summoner is still being tested, the paperwork took time. She also warns there are no questions, refunds, or cancellations. Alan tries to summon an insect. Nothing happens. He experiments, growing frustrated, until he realizes he probably needs to use Create first. When he does, a card appears, an H-rank insect with Endurance +1 and Agility +1. He's thrilled, but his mother walks in, so he hides it and pretends to sleep. The next day, he activates the card. It becomes a huge grasshopper that jumps at his face. He tries commanding it, but it ignores him and hops away. Checking the grimoire, he names it Dina and notices a buff section. Those +1 stats boost him, not just the summon. He gets excited and raises his voice, and Teresia rushes in, panics at the giant insect and stomps it, killing his first summon. Alan keeps experimenting and creates an H-rank mouse, Mousy. It's dumb like Dina, but at least it follows simple orders. He learns he can stockpile up to 10 cards per creature, and the stacked cards increase his stats. 10 Mousy cards raise his attack by 10. Even as a toddler, he can become much stronger than a normal child, though Hell Mode makes progress painfully slow. One day, Rodan comes home covered in blood. Teresia panics, but it's from a hunt. Rodan proudly killed a great boar. In fall and winter, the village men go monster hunting, and Rodan offers to show Alan the carcass. Alan agrees, excited to see a real monster. Rodan carries him on his shoulders. On the way, he points out a flock of bird monsters called albans, which fly north as fall arrives. Rodan admits he named Alan after a monster, Albaharan, because it represents freedom in the sky, though Teresia scolded him for naming a child after a monster. Alan dozes off, then wakes to see the great boar up close, huge and terrifying. A man named Gerda walks up, calls Rodan the heavyweight champion, and the men applaud. Rodan brushes it off as luck. Alan introduces himself politely, surprising Gerda since he's so young. Gerda mentions his daughter is the same age but not nearly as well behaved. When Alan asks how strong great boars are, Gerda says they're C-rank monsters, and it takes about 20 men to bring one down. Alan stores that as a benchmark. 10 months later, Alan is almost 2. He reaches Summon Level 2 and Create Level 2, unlocking Expansion Level 1 and the Grimoire's Notes feature. He can now create G-rank creature cards. He gains a fusion skill, and his inventory space doubles, meaning double the buffs. He tries fusing 2 H-rank Mousy cards, but the grimoire says he doesn't have enough MP. He even tries creating a G-rank Beast card, but still can't. His max MP isn't high enough yet. By age 3, Alan has built up plenty of cards. G-rank beasts, insects, and birds. He fuses 2 cards and creates a G rank bird, naming it Chappie. When summoned, it lands on his shoulder. Its ability is voice mimic, and it proves it by repeating Alan's words perfectly, which Alan immediately sees as useful for deception. He summons more G rank beasts, a frog named Hopper and a mole named Molly. Hopper's provoke makes it glow and bounce as a distraction. Molly's dig carves out a huge hole, and Alan realizes it can set pitfall traps. He's thrilled by how deep and tactical the summoner system is. This is the hardcore gameplay he wanted. Then he falls into the hole. Right after that, the bell rings at 3 p.m., meaning Alan already knows what's next. Krina, Gerda's daughter, arrives to play Dueling Knights. Alan isn't excited, but he can't escape. Krina immediately challenges him with a wooden sword. Even though it's just play, Alan takes it seriously because she's insanely fast and merciless. Alan has poured buffs into agility, but he can barely keep up. Krina breaks his wooden sword and keeps attacking anyway. By the time Alan's parents rescue him, he's already beaten down. Around this time, Teresia is pregnant again. Even after the beating, Alan helps her carry vegetables, and she thanks him warmly. That night at dinner, Alan tells Rodin he wants to help with harvesting since Teresia is pregnant. His parents are shocked. Alan insists he's strong enough, though he keeps his true stamina secret. Teresia says kids shouldn't work, and Rodin agrees, telling Alan he'll have to do farm labor eventually, so he should enjoy life while he can. Alan realizes farm work is brutal and understands why they refuse. Teresia mentions she's seen Alan throwing rocks at a tree outside. Rodin asks why, and Alan says Rodin told him monsters live in the forest, so he's practicing to protect his mother. Rodin laughs and praises him, but Alan is really testing whether he can unlock skills beyond summoning. Teresia asks if he'll protect Krina too, and Alan agrees, while thinking about how scary she is when she plays. Rodin then brings up the appraisal ceremony. Teresia explains that at age 5, a divine ceremony reveals your talent, and Rodin says a good talent could help Alan escape serfdom. Alan latches onto that hope. Later in winter, Alan checks on Dina again and realizes he can keep a summon active for an entire day now. Real progress, but Krina shows up again, he hides the grimoire, and they play knights. He blocks more than usual, but she still beats him down. Then Rodin comes home, and as Teresia goes to greet him, Dina suddenly leaps at her leg. She panics and falls, and the shock triggers contractions. The baby is coming. Krina runs to fetch her mother while Rodin and Alan scramble to help Teresia. Alan has no idea what to do and wishes he'd played a birthing sim. Rodin looks just as lost, even though it's his second child. Thankfully, Krina's mother, Matilda, arrives in time. She orders the men out, saying the women will handle it. Rodin and Alan are forced to wait outside while Matilda and Krina help Teresia all night. By dawn, a baby boy is born. Rodin proudly names him Mash, and Teresia immediately hopes it isn't another monster-inspired name. Alan wonders why he reincarnated. He still wants to max his levels and dominate the system, but he's also grown attached to this family. He wants to free them from the grinding life of serfdom, even if he doesn't know how yet. When Alan turns 5, the appraisal ceremony finally arrives. Rodin explains it's mandatory for everyone, from serfs to nobles, and that a talent could change Alan's future. But there's heavy competition since many kids are turning 5 at the same time. Right then, Krina arrives and insists they go together. As they approach the commoner village, she talks excitedly about becoming a knight if she's appraised as a swordswoman. Alan notices well-groomed children he didn't expect to see among commoners, and he hears whispers that his dark hair and eyes make him look like a serf. 3 priests step outside the church and announce that Elmia, the god of creation, blesses all children equally with opportunity. They cite heroes who rose from low status, like Cassius the Saint and Diverg the Sword Lord. Alan connects this to the game's rules. High-tier classes often start from low social classes, meaning everyone has to be appraised. Inside, Alan notices the statues of the gods and recognizes Elmia in the center. The priests begin with village chief Deboji's son, Palomas, who places his hand on a crystal ball. His talent appears on a metal plate, Merchant. His father celebrates. Alan notices attributes are shown as ranks instead of numbers, and he secretly checks his grimoire to confirm it matches. As the ceremony continues, Alan sees that not everyone receives a talent, making it a big deal. A boy named Dora is appraised with the talent Axe User, and he even has an A-rank attribute, the highest Alan has seen so far. Then it's Krina's turn. The crystal glows brightly, and everyone reacts as she's declared a Sword Lord, one of the strongest talents possible. Gerda is ecstatic, calling it the jackpot, while Krina is disappointed because she wanted to be a swordswoman. Alan isn't surprised. This explains why she's always been absurdly strong. Finally, Alan steps up, expecting his parents will learn he's a summoner. He touches the crystal ball, and it shines brighter than ever. So bright it knocks him backward. Rodin checks on him, but Alan jokes that Krina has put him through worse. Rodin asks the priest to read the results since they can't. The priest announces Alan has no talent. Alan knows that's wrong and checks the plate himself, only to see glitched text where his talent should be. His mood crashes, and he blames Elmia for failing to debug the system. Now nobody will know he's a summoner. Rodan still takes him home, and Teresia comforts him. At dinner, Rodan tells Alan talent doesn't matter. He'll always be their pride and joy. Teresia agrees. Alan knows they're poor enough to not even own a bathtub, but he's still grateful he was born into this family. That night, Alan checks the grimoire again. All his attributes are E rank, and he finally realizes why. He's the only one playing on Hell mode. All the children at the ceremony are level 1 like him, meaning the rank system reflects growth potential. Since Hell mode progress is 1/100th of normal, his stats are displayed as that fraction. For most people, that would be crushing. For Alan, it's fuel. He swears he'll prove hardcore gaming is superior, and he's fully prepared to flood the developers with complaints until they fix that glitch. Time passes, and Alan notices Rodan acting strange. Teresia says he's been off since coming home late last night. Soon after, they visit Gerda's house to celebrate Krina's Sword Lord talent. Krina proudly tells Alan Sword Lord is even better than Swordswoman, meaning she'll only get stronger. Alan jokes that she already tramples him daily. Matilda mentions the chief gifted celebratory liquor earlier, so they're opening it. But Rodin stays tense and bitter. He congratulates them stiffly, and Gerda responds with the same tension, insisting guests drink first. Alan suspects jealousy, but Rodin isn't petty. Something else is wrong. Rodin goes to pour the first drink, but Gerda refuses, saying he won't drink anything poured with that sour look. He tells Rodin to stop killing the mood, until Rodin suddenly slams the bottle down and shouts that he is happy for them. Then Gerda drops the real issue. Rodin said he was cutting ties with their family. Rodin admits he doesn't want to, but insists Krina's talent is extraordinary. She could join the knighthood, serve the nation, maybe rise into nobility, so she shouldn't waste time socializing with serfs. Alan realizes Rodin thinks he's helping them by pushing them away, even though they never asked for it. Rodin argues Sword Lord is too big a deal, but Gerda snaps that it changes nothing. Alan tells Krina to fix it, and she grabs her wooden sword, ready to intervene, until Matilda and Teresia step in and shut it down. Afterward, Alan asks Matilda if they've always been like this. She says fatherhood mellowed them out, but they used to be hotheads who threw punches constantly. Teresia smiles and explains the four of them grew up together as childhood friends. Matilda adds that 10 years ago, when people started talking about settling this frontier land, the four of them chose to go together. They even planned their houses as a pair, which is why both homes share the same design. Rodin says it was easier to build both houses at once with shared labor and supplies. Gerda brags he set the support beams. Rodin says he built the walls and floors, and Gerda claims he did the roof. With liquor and nostalgia, the mood finally softens, and Rodin and Gerda make peace. The next day, while working, someone rushes in with news. The Order of Knights is coming to see Krina. Rodin and Gerda head to the commoner village with the kids, and a crowd gathers fast. Alan notes that word about Krina being a sword lord is already spreading. Dora approaches Alan again, flaunting his axe user talent and mocking him as a talentless loser. Before Alan can respond, Krina steps in and says Alan is here because he's strong. Dora points to Alan's E-rank attributes and serf status. Krina lunges like she's about to bite him, but Gerda holds her back. Then Deboji announces the knights have arrived. The crowd parts to reveal the captain, a swordmaster named Zenoff. Krina is practically vibrating with excitement. For 3 years, she and Alan have played knights, and now she's finally seeing the real thing. She introduces herself proudly, and Alan wonders if she's about to be taken away immediately. Gerda warns Zenoff that Krina is only 5 and has never used a real sword, so she wouldn't stand a chance. Zenoff doesn't care. He says if she truly is a sword lord, age shouldn't matter, unless Gerda is lying to fool Baron Granville. Gerda denies it, but Zenoff warns that falsifying appraisal results is punishable by death. They'll verify Krina's talent right now with a fencing duel. Gerda begs for mercy because his daughter's life is at stake. Zenoff coldly says she fights, or they execute her and her family on the spot. Alan is stunned at how extreme it is, and the crowd watches in tense horror. But the moment Krina sees a real sword, she runs to it with shining eyes and asks to use it. She lifts the massive blade, nearly as tall as she is, and challenges the vice captain. The vice captain introduces himself as LeBron and accepts. He blocks her first strike easily. Dora watches in disbelief as Krina swings the huge sword like it weighs nothing. Alan figures her sword mastery must be around level 5 from their daily play fights, but he doesn't know if that will matter against a trained adult. LeBron counters. Krina barely blocks and Gerda panics. She charges again, and LeBron kicks her hard enough to send her into a wall. Gerda snaps, but the knights restrain him. Rodin and Alan try to move too, but they're held down as well. Alan is furious. This is too much for a 5-year-old. Still, Krina stands back up. Then an intense aura erupts around her. Even LeBron looks shaken. He blocks rapidly, but Krina's strength spikes so high he can't hold his ground. Alan realizes she's using an extra skill. Krina lands a final blow and snaps LeBron's sword clean in half. Zenoff ends the duel immediately and orders them to lower their weapons. Krina looks confused. It ended so quickly, then casually thanks LeBron, calling him strong for a gramps. LeBron tries to correct her. He's only 24, but he's too defeated to argue. The crowd erupts. A 5-year-old just beat the vice captain of the Knights. That seals it. Krina is a genuine sword lord. Gerda rushes to hug her in relief and pride. Rodin is just grateful she's okay. Zenoff admits there's no disputing the result, praises Gerda for raising a sword lord, and apologizes for his behavior. Gerda is still furious, but Zenoff asks to discuss Krina's future. Gerda hesitates, so Zenoff offers to let him bring friends for support. That convinces him. They meet at Deboji's residence for a meal. Alan can tell Gerda is still upset, and he doesn't blame him. Alan understands why Zenoff and Deboji's son are there, but he doesn't know why Dora and Rodin are also present. Dora probably just refuses to be overshadowed. Meanwhile, Alan decides he's stealing some momo fruit from the table to bring home. Zenoff tells them to eat freely and introduces himself properly as captain of the Knights. He explains his lord sent him to confirm whether a sword lord truly existed here, and now it's undeniable. He then tells Deboji the settlement was originally meant to be named after him once it was fully established. But since a sword lord was born here, the Baron has declared it will instead be named Krina Village to honor the occasion. Gerda is shocked, but pride replaces it instantly. Deboji accepts respectfully. Zenoff apologizes for the sudden change and mentions that 3 years ago a sword lord was supposedly born to a count's family. That person failed expectations and was reappraised, revealing only ordinary swordsmen. After that, investigations uncovered nobles exaggerating talents, so the kingdom now verifies appraisals strictly, hence the harsh duel. Zenoff apologizes again and asks Gerda to raise Krina well. When she turns 12, she can attend the academy and potentially serve the royal family. He adds that an instructor will eventually be sent to the village, and any child with talent must study hard to earn admission. Krina tells Alan he has to study with them too. Dora mocks Alan again, and they start bickering. That's when Zenoff finally notices Alan. Rodin explains Alan is his son. Gerda introduces him, and Zenoff immediately recognizes Rodin as the great boar hunter. Zenoff stands and shows Rodin real respect, explaining the Baron loves the great boar meat supplied by this village every winter. Zenoff tells Rodin to take it as praise straight from the Baron, calling him a hero for taking on the most dangerous role in the hunts. Rodin shakes his hand, stunned. On the way home, Rodin admits he never expected a serf like him could be acknowledged by powerful people. He tells Alan he'll do great things too because he has good genes. And right then, Alan casually reveals he snuck out fruit for Teresia and Mash. Alan finally manages to level up his summoning skill. The moment he opens his status screen, he sees a brand new ability has unlocked, Enhance. This allows him to strengthen existing summons and access a new tier of creatures, rank F. His card storage also expands from 20 slots to 30. Naturally, Alan immediately starts overthinking it. Does he still need to fuse cards like he did with Chappie? Or does Enhance work differently? And more importantly, what kind of summon comes next? His imagination runs wild as he pictures something legendary, maybe even a dragon. It's been nearly 2 years since his summoning skill last leveled up, so he's itching to test it as soon as night falls. That evening, Alan volunteers to wash the dishes, hoping to finish chores quickly so he can experiment in secret. While he works, Mash asks if they're getting another sibling. Rodin says it could be either a brother or a sister. Teresia confidently predicts a girl, and Rodin immediately starts brainstorming names, until she cuts him off, reminding him that she gets naming rights for girls. Rodin apologizes and asks if she already has something picked out. Right then, Alan's MP hits maximum, and his grimoire materializes. As he opens it, he accidentally reads Elmia's name out loud. His parents instantly scold him, reminding him that speaking the Lord's name carelessly is forbidden. Flustered, Alan apologizes and quickly changes the subject, pointing out that Rodin's old scar looks bigger than before. Rodin explains that the scar changed because he passed the judgment of the gods during the boar hunt. Curious, Alan asks what that means. Rodin explains that, on rare occasions, a burst of divine energy occurs during a hunt, instantly restoring stamina and healing wounds. To Alan, it sounds exactly like leveling up. He can't see Rodin's stats, but he's sure his father must be incredibly high level. Even so, Alan knows he himself is still stuck at level 1. No matter how much his summoning improves, he doesn't gain SP unless he defeats monsters, and serfs aren't allowed to leave the village freely. He asks Rodin if he can join the hunts, but Rodin immediately shuts it down. Hunting is deadly, and people die every year. Alan understands and backs off. Later that night, lying in bed, Alan reflects on a message he received earlier. He checks his grimoire and confirms his suspicion. The administrators finally responded to his non-stop complaints. The glitched appraisal text has been fixed, along with his stats. At first, Alan had assumed his attributes were low because Hell Mode slowed progression. But when he sees the corrected numbers, he's stunned. His MP and intelligence are both rank S. and he now has the same number of high-rank stats as Krina. For the first time, he feels genuinely rewarded for all his grinding. Eager to test Enhance, Alan opens the skill menu and strengthens Dina. The creature's stats increase, especially the buff-related ones. But Alan notices something interesting. The buffs applied to him don't change. Curious, he summons Dina to see the difference. One glance tells him everything. Dina is clearly stronger. That's when it clicks. Being a summoner isn't just about summoning monsters, it's about refining them. Satisfied, Alan relaxes until Teresia walks in, sees Dina, and panics. Without hesitation, she stomps it flat. The next morning, Rodin prepares to head out hunting. As Teresia sees him off, Alan reflects on something important. Enhancements don't disappear after summoning. That means as long as he has MP, he should enhance every card he owns. Teresia calls him over so he can say goodbye, and Alan politely wishes Rodin a safe day. Later, while hanging laundry, Alan realizes he's tested nearly every fusion combination possible, except one: F-rank insect plus F-rank bird. He tries it, and finally succeeds. A new card appears, rank F grass type. At first, Alan's disappointed by the low rank, but then he sees the buff, MP recovery increase. That instantly changes everything. At his current pace, leveling would take decades. This card alone could shave off years. Excited, Alan summons it. Instead of a creature, an apple appears. He names it Oppo, immediately deciding it's useless in combat. According to the summoning details, Oppo's ability is Aroma. When Alan tells it to activate, the apple sinks into the soil and a seedling sprouts. A calming scent fills the yard, and for a moment, Alan imagines turning the dull backyard into a botanical paradise, before remembering he's not a farmer. Teresia approaches with MASH and calls Alan in for lunch. Alan tells Oppo to return, but nothing happens. When Teresia asks about the seedling, Alan awkwardly claims he doesn't know, silently wondering why Oppo won't respond. Later, Alan practices fencing with Krina and loses again. Still, she praises him, noticing he's gotten stronger. Alan estimates his sword mastery has reached level 3, and with his expanded inventory, his resistance and attack are improving. He even wonders whether Oppo's aroma might affect combat. Later that day, Alan is back to throwing stones at a tree. In his mind, he's already thrown over 20,000 times, but the skill still won't level up. Mash complains that it's boring and asks when they're going home. Since Teresia became pregnant, Alan has been watching Mash and helping with chores. He decides focusing on summoning is more efficient, but keeps throwing stones anyway, hoping the next one might finally trigger something. Mash asks about the trees, and Alan explains what he discovered about Oppo. The aroma shortens MP recovery time, letting him stay active longer. It's subtle, but incredibly useful. That night, Alan notices Rodin is late. Teresia grows anxious, since Rodin said he'd be working nearby. Suddenly, Gerda's voice echoes outside as several men carry Rodin back on a wooden board. Teresia and Alan rush to him while Gerda urges Rodin to stay awake, reminding him his family is here. Gerda explains Rodin took a severe blow to the stomach. They barely kept him alive using a rare healing herb called Floor Miller. Teresia is shocked. It's incredibly valuable, but Gerda explains the knights gave it as an apology for what happened with Krina. Without it, Rodin wouldn't have survived. Someone angrily blames a careless peasant. Tensions flare. Mash starts crying, and Alan carries him inside as the others leave. Once things settle, Alan asks Gerda what really happened. Gerda explains that the village chief ordered peasants to join the hunt to increase profits. Normally, peasants never participate. It's too dangerous. But after the knight captain publicly called Rodin a legend, they believed they'd be safe. Neither Gerda nor Rodin liked it, but they couldn't refuse the order. Some peasants refused to train seriously. When the hunt began, they were given the simplest task, luring the boar. But when the moment came, they panicked, broke formation, and ran. One fell, and Rodin stepped in to save him, taking the full hit. Gerda asks Teresia and Alan to stay strong while Rodin recovers. That night, Alan stays awake beside them, feeling helpless. For the first time, he questions his obsession with strength. Power without purpose is meaningless. This isn't a game. This world is survival. He realizes he has to protect Mash and the sibling yet to be born. The next day, Gerda returns with Rodin's share of meat and promises to look after the family through winter. Alan vows to take responsibility, and this time he proves it with action, carrying heavy loads and helping nonstop, shocking everyone with his strength. He decides he's done hiding. With Krina already rising as a heroine, no one will care if a talentless serf draws attention. Family comes first. Later, Gerda teaches him how to harvest potatoes, amazed by his strength. Alan jokes that he inherited it from Rodan. He complains that the Baron takes more than half their harvest, but they still need supplies to survive winter. Then the village chief arrives with fruit, having heard Rodan is recovering. The peasant responsible apologizes, but Alan glares at him. Rodan forgives him calmly, telling him to be more careful next time. Alan is stunned by his father's kindness. Teresia, however, firmly reminds the man that his mistake nearly cost Rodan's life. The man accepts her words. Rodan smiles weakly and tells everyone to calm down. Alan realizes he truly has the best parents. The next day, Alan clears a wide area for experiments. He summons Hopper, and colorful frogs immediately leap at his face. He sets traps, hides nearby, and activates Provoke. The frogs hop around, drawing attention. It's a basic trap, but if it works, they'll survive winter. Just as Alan is about to give up, a massive shadow appears. A rank B alba heron descends, the monster his name comes from. It devours the frogs effortlessly. Alan stays hidden, realizing his Provoke attracted something far stronger than expected. His instinct says run, but he notices his skill leveled up, doubling buff capacity from 10 to 20. He decides to gamble. Alan charges with his wooden sword. The alba heron swats him aside instantly. He summons Hopper again, experiencing real combat for the first time, but the monster annihilates every summon. Worse, Alan realizes something terrifying. Each destroyed summon removes its buffs. As his strength drains and the alba heron looms closer, Alan finally understands the true danger of being a summoner. And for the first time since arriving in this world, he realizes this could be the end. And that's it for this episode. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.